Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me again here on the Exploring the Midwest broadcast. For those of you who are listening to the podcast, the Exploring the Midwest broadcast is live on YouTube every Wednesday at 12:10 p.m. Central. We would love to have you join us live and ask your questions and chat with other viewers. Today, we are talking all things South Dakota, and my guest is Ciara Rounds, the Global Media and Public Relations Representative for the South Dakota Department of Tourism. Ciara, thank you for joining me. I see you have probably as much snow as we do today.
We don't have a whole lot of snow, especially for January, but yeah, we got a little bit. It's winter wonderland out here.
And today, moderating, we have freelance writer and photographer Mike Y. Mike has been writing about travel across the world, but primarily the upper Midwest since 1990. His articles and photographs have appeared in numerous magazines, newspapers, and state tourism productions. He's lived for a couple of years in Grand Forks and then near Sioux Falls for 9 years and continues to travel across the states. Mike recently released The Dakotas Off the Beaten Path this last October. It's a great book. And so Mike will be welcoming you into the chat today. And his first tip is to drive Highway 44 from east to west. It is more scenic than the interstate. So everybody say hi to Mike when you check in. And Ciara, I would love to get started talking about South Dakota.
Yes.
It is such a brilliant mix of plains and canyon and mountains. And it's really not defined so much by one thing, but there is something that people tend to really focus on when they think about traveling to South Dakota.
Sure, of course. And I think you're probably talking about Mount Rushmore.
Very much.
And I think that is Mount Rushmore is such a defining piece of South Dakota, but a lot of people think that's the only thing to do here, and it's not.
That is so true. South Dakota, it's a big state. I mean, do you know how long it takes to cross it if you are on the interstate on I-90?
So if you're on I-90 and you're going from Sioux Falls to Rapid City, it takes about 6 hours, but you do pass a time zone, so you gain an hour as you're heading east.
Which is a bonus, and unless you're not prepared for it, and then you're wondering why things aren't open when you think they should be.
Right.
But it's a beautiful state to cross because you have so many different features. You have the beautiful plains, brilliant sunflower fields, and actually let me get our video up to show a little bit of what you can expect when you visit South Dakota. But, I mean, you have farms, and then you have just the Badlands opens up like nothing you expect.
Right.
And then you go into the mountains.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people think of South Dakota as just being rolling plains, which there are a lot of rolling plains, especially in the eastern side of the state. But once you start crossing the Missouri River, you get into the Badlands, which is totally like nothing you'll find anywhere else. And as you keep heading out towards the Black Hills, you can see there you're in the mountains.
And I know that the first time we took our girls to the Badlands, they were asking us, what is it like? And we were at a loss to describe it. I mean, it's like you're driving and then all of a sudden, everything gives way.
Right. And even pieces of the Badlands are so different from each other. And so some parts of it kind of just look like you're in Mars, and other parts we call them the yellow mounds. And so they're this beautiful, big yellow rock features. And so even while you're there, you'll be quite amazed at the difference in the landscapes.
So what other things can people maybe search out when they're in South Dakota? Obviously, we know about the Black Hills. We know maybe a little bit about the Badlands, but what might people not expect during a South Dakota vacation?
Sure. So we like to talk about our 56 different state and rec areas, along with 6 National Park Service sites, and those spread across all of South Dakota. And so they're not just out in the Black Hills or just in the Badlands. Some people that comes as quite a surprise is Palisades State Park. And it's over by Sioux Falls, and it has just these big limestone rock cliffs. And they're going through a big park expansion right now that we are really looking forward to in a few years, which will be great to get people out to do more outside recreation and rock climbing and kayaking. And so really, the state parks are such a great part to have all across the state.
And when you're thinking about maybe family activities, South Dakota is such an amazing, oh darn it, that's the wrong video. I'm having technical difficulties and I can't even apologize enough.
No, that's
But
fine.
when you're thinking about heading out for family activities, South Dakota really has some amazing activities for families, indoors and outdoors, and just gosh, there's so much to do.
Yes, there is. And so, whether you're planning a trip to the east side of the state or the west side of the state, if you're in Sioux Falls, some great family activities are, like we said, that Palisades State Park for camping and outdoor recreation. It's also home to the Washington Pavilion, which is just a wonderful museum for children. Sioux Falls also has a couple other really great state parks that are good for biking and hiking outdoors. Once you get to the middle of the state, we have the Missouri River, which is really fun for families to do some water adventure on, and boating and kayaking and skiing. And then as you start heading out towards the Black Hills, there's all sorts of fun roadside attractions like Wall Drug, which kids just absolutely love.
Love Wall Drug.
Badlands. Yeah, you can't not talk about families loving Wall Drug. And then once you're out in the Black Hills, aside from, the big things like Mount Rushmore and Crazy Horse, Custer State Park is just absolutely amazing for children, and to see the buffalo and the burros and all that wildlife and, up close and living out there, it's really great.
And when you're thinking of family, I don't think there's probably anything that maybe resonates, especially with us Midwesterners, maybe of a certain age. But when you think family, Midwest, you might think a little bit back to the pioneers. And
Oh,
Laura Ingalls Wilder really is front and center. And Southeast South Dakota, I mean, that's where so many of her books were based. And just stepping into that history is phenomenal.
it is. I don't know if the kids are still reading the books in school today like I did when I was younger, but how cool is that to then get to see that in real life? And being from the Midwest is such an easy way to bring some history to life and to get those kids out there to experience, something that maybe they just thought was in a book.
Well, and I took my girls when they were younger, and it's been 7 years. And it still ranks as one of our favorite trips. It was just a mother-daughters trip that we did. And we spent the night in one of the covered wagons there.
Oh, sure.
We were in the barn the next morning. We were brushing horses, hitching horses, playing with little kittens in the barn. They got hands-on washing laundry on, the washboards and things like that. It's just so incredible. And then, we bought their little their prairie girl dresses, and we picked up those books, and it was just as we read them when we got home, they were able to really understand
Yeah.
what the books meant. And
Yeah.
it was an education beyond just reading it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I will mention too, though, that Laura Ingalls Wilder Homestead is doing their 50th anniversary of their pageant this year. And so every summer they pick one of the stories and they do a reenactment of it. And then they do, this goes on through the summer months and have a little pageant. And so that is in its 50th year this year. So that's awesome.
That is just absolutely amazing. But for maybe you're not wanting to go with the kids. Maybe you want more of an adult active getaway. Uh,
Sure.
we personally, we really like hiking and biking. And when
Mhm.
you get out to the Black Hills, just the rock scrambles through the needles in Custer State Park are amazing hikes and views. And then you have the Mickelson Trail.
Yes.
So phenomenal.
It is. So we also have the Black Elk Peak in South Dakota, which is just over 7,200 feet tall. And that's a very popular hike. It's the highest point east of the Rocky Mountains. And that's a beautiful hike, and it has a fire lookout tower at the top. Mickelson Trail, like you mentioned, is great not only for hiking, but as you can see here, they are fat tire biking on it and snowshoeing. And that is 109-mile long. And it follows the railroad that was once there. And so both of those are great adventures. Make good adventures for the adults and for the kids and for families, and however you want to go about that.
And as we mentioned, South Dakota has a lot of our pioneer and Western history. There is so much to experience history-wise as you cross the state. It's like
It
these
really is.
stages of history as you cross it. So what
That's
if people are after history, where would you send them?
That's a really good point too. And there's so many different pieces of history. It depends on what really angle you're looking at. But like we mentioned, Laura Ingalls Wilder and bringing some of that history to life. If you want to follow the Missouri River and take the route that Lewis and Clark discovered when they were here in 1804 and 1806. Otherwise, once you get out to the hills and you get out to Deadwood, that's a whole different Wild West history in itself. And some of those pieces of history are still alive out there. You can go gold mining and see where the chair that Wild Bill Hickok was shot in, and all kinds of fun adventures. But then we also have some more the like geological history, so of the Badlands and that landscape, and yeah.
Well, and then one of our favorite spots is the Mammoth Dig.
Oh, sure. Yes, of course. Yeah. How could I
And
leave that one out down in Hot Springs?
and that's an ongoing paleo paleontological, that's too big of a word
That's
for
the
me.
big word.
But it's an ongoing dig. They think they'll be
Yep.
digging there at least another 60 years. It's so incredible.
It is an active dig site. And so that I think is really awesome for children and for adults. I mean, how many of us are grown adults and never seen a fossil or anything like that in real life? And so that's a really fun one to experience as well. And you can see them digging, and I think you can get a little bit more of a hands-on tour and do some digging yourself there.
And well, and they do let people volunteer
Yep.
as so if it's something you're really interested in, you can come and be there for a week or a month. And there's this whole, obviously, a fee involved with it and everything like that. But if you've always dreamed about digging for fossils,
Right.
you can
It's a
you
dream
can
come
do
true.
that.
Sure. Yeah.
We've met
Absolutely.
people that's their vacation. They go and they dig for fossils
Right. Well, and you
at the
forget
mammoth
how
site.
huge that they are. I mean, this isn't an animal that's walking the earth anymore. And so I think once you start digging, you're like, oh my gosh, these are huge.
Right. Now, let's talk about your national park sites because you
Sure.
have six, right?
Yes. Yes. And so I think sometimes when people think national park sites, they're thinking of just the parks. But we do have, so there's sites. So we also have the Minuteman Missile site. And that is just north of the Badlands a ways. And that is where, they had the missiles back. And so you can take a tour to see some of those deactivated missiles down in their silos, which is really awesome. Otherwise, we have Wind Cave National Park, which is one of the largest caves in South Dakota. And so you can take a tour of the cave most times. They are down for some renovations right now, but caves are a really fun thing to take the family to as well. And then, of course, Badlands National Park, which I think is probably the one that comes to mind for most people.
And the hiking there, if you like being outdoors, some amazing hikes. Notch
Oh
Trail is
gosh, yeah.
probably my favorite because it has this wooden ladder that it starts off really gentle and then you're like this at the
Yep.
top. And
It's a steep one.
it's
And sunrise out there in the Badlands is just absolutely beautiful. If you think the formations are brilliant reds and yellows during the day, oh, you should see the sunrise and that light shining on them. It gives it a whole new vibe too.
and you can camp out in Badlands National Park. They have one campground that has electricity, and then they have uh, another one that is very primitive, but you can also backcountry camp at the Badlands National Park too, which I think is really an experience that you don't really expect maybe in that kind of area.
Yeah. Within the Badlands, there are cabins as well that you can rent. And so if you're looking for a camping excursion in Badlands, you can go anywhere from the glamping and the nice cabins to the roughing it out in the middle with bringing your own tent and light and everything else.
Now, one thing we didn't touch on, we were talking about the history of South Dakota, is the Native American history, and that is really alive and well in the state. Can you tell us a little bit about what people could expect if that's what they're searching for?
Sure. So Native American history is a big piece of South Dakota. I think a lot of people, if you're coming here to experience some of that, Crazy Horse is a must. Obviously, they are carving the monument of Crazy Horse, but they have a wonderful museum on site, and they also have a college right now that they're dedicating to Native American studies. And they just have a lot of history and ongoing movements that they're doing for the Native American people in South Dakota.
And you can, if you time it right, you can experience a powwow. You can really get
And
immersed in that beautiful, colorful, vibrant history.
yes, throughout the summer, there are a number of powwows that take place across the state within the different reservations. So on Pine Ridge or Cheyenne Ridge, but then also at Crazy Horse as well. They do a number of powwows throughout the year.
Now, we've talked a lot about kind of getting away from things, distancing ourselves, but South Dakota has a few really nice cities.
We do. Yes. So our two largest cities are Sioux Falls on the east side and then Rapid City way on the west side. So there's quite a bit of distance in between them. But both of them are really vibrant and growing cities. Their downtown scene has really exploded in the last couple of years. As you can see, this one is Falls Park in Sioux Falls, which is just off of downtown a little ways. And both of these towns are just really, it's fun to see some of the larger chains and the people that are really moving in and taken over.
So South Dakota has so much to offer the visitor from city experiences, and both of those cities have really beautiful art scenes as well. So if you like art and public sculpture, you're going to find plenty of that there. But you've got pretty much everything. You've got the cities, you've got the great outdoors, you've got the history, you've got the nature, you've got the animals, just really anything anybody could want from a vacation. So if if people are thinking about a South Dakota vacation for 2021, what 3 things might you have them consider putting at the top of their list?
Sure. So I think the first thing would be to check out the Laura Ingalls Wilder homestead in DeSmet. As I mentioned, they're having their 50th anniversary this year. And maybe that's something that you kind of look over because it's not as prominent as Mount Rushmore or Crazy Horse, but there's a lot of good family history and hands-on activities to do there. Another one would be, of course, if you haven't visited Mount Rushmore, you have to do the largest tourist attraction in South Dakota. Another one would be to see the art scenes. So Sioux Falls recently installed, it's called the Arch of Dreams. And downtown in Sioux Falls, they have a sculpture walk. And so those are ever changing, and they have different sculptures on every corner downtown by local artists. And they'll do a contest every year of the best ones, and those stay within the city, and then new ones will rotate in. And so those are really great ways to get out and explore downtown Sioux Falls while also getting a little bit of arts and culture in there too.
I think that's one of my favorite things about Sioux Falls is how they install new art every year, and the city votes on which one to keep.
Yep.
And it gets added in. I think that's just absolutely brilliant. But Rapid City has an anniversary coming up, 10th anniversary for Main Street Square. What is Main Street Square?
Yes. So in downtown Rapid, they have converted one of the corners on their blocks to a outdoor park and campus area. And so during the summer, it's a large grass field that they do different concerts and art festivals and community gatherings on. And then during the winter, it is converted into a large ice skating rink, which is just absolutely beautiful. And it's a good place for people to congregate and meet each other while still having that space to distance and be outside. And it's a really fun and great area. And it's been a great addition to downtown Rapid City. And as you mentioned, they are having their 10th year anniversary of that this year.
So fun.
Yes.
Just popping over into our chat, we have a couple people here. Mike also wanted to let everybody know that Sioux Falls is one of those rare cities with waterfalls in the downtown area. And those are beautiful. They're lit at night, they're decorated at Christmas, and even just during the day, there's the park and everything around them. It's just so nice to visit.
They're so beautiful. And I think it's kind of a surprise as you're in one of the South Dakota's largest cities and you're downtown and there's just large buildings and concrete streets. And then within 5 minutes of there are these beautiful waterfalls.
And Fran says that she's never been to South Dakota. She would love to go. Now, Fran lives in Boston. So if people are flying into South Dakota, where do they need to fly into? How many airports are we looking at? And what's the best way to travel around?
So we do have a few smaller regional airports, but then our two largest airports are in Rapid City and Sioux Falls, and they're very accessible to get in and out of. But South Dakota is a driving state too. So once you get into Sioux Falls, you're going to want to rent a car, or into Rapid, rent a car. And whether you want to stay within that region or travel across the state to see, get out and explore a little bit. But two largest airports are in Sioux Falls and Rapid City.
Country Pilgrim says he loves South Dakota. He only lives an hour away from Sioux Falls, and he highly recommends Falls Park. And Mike also said that Rapid City has statues of the presidents throughout downtown and an art alley, which anyone can write graffiti as long as it's clean. And I think those are two really great points of other things to do in Rapid City because it's so close to Mount Rushmore, it gets overlooked.
It can be sometimes. I kind of like to call Rapid City as the hub to the Black Hills. And so it's a great city to fly into and spend a few days. Like I mentioned, their downtown is just really booming and vibrant. And so they have added a sculpture of presidents. And so every corner downtown has one of the presidents. And each sculpture is unique. They're not mass-produced sculptures. Each one was made specifically for its spot in downtown. And so you'll find some cool little pieces about them or something that is special to each president with a little bit of history on them. So it's really cool to see, but also a really good learning experience too.
And good photo ops.
And good photo ops. Great photo ops. Yes. And then, of course, Art Alley you can go there 3 times a year and it'll always be different. As I said, artists are allowed to come in and add their own touch as long as it's clean.
So fun. So, yes. Ciara, what is the best way for people to maybe order their South Dakota travel guide or get more information?
Sure. So, of course, check out our website, travelsouthdakota.com. We would love to send out vacation guides. If you would like to get a hold of someone on our team, feel free to reach out to me. We also have a sdmedia.com, which you can get some more information off of. And then I'm not sure if Jody, if we're able to link an email address in the comments or anyway.
We'll have an email address on the main page on the website. Perfect. So I can certainly put that in there as well.
That's awesome. That works out great.
Perfect. Well, Ciara, thank you so much for taking the time today to tell us more about South Dakota, help us discover a little bit beyond the Badlands and the Black Hills and Mount Rushmore, because there's so much to experience in South Dakota.
There really is. Yes. Yes. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to reach out. We'd love to answer them and help you book a vacation to come see us.
Great. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Jody. It was fun to talk with you.
You too.